On Sunday, Greece's ruling coalition agreed to a severe austerity deal with European bankers. Just a week earlier, leftist Syriza coalition won a landslide victory in a referendum against the bankers' demands. But then a few days later, Syriza made an offer that was nearly identical to that of the bankers' proposal, and now they have apparently accepted even worse terms. I'll be speaking to Manolis Spathis, who is in Athens, Greece. He is a journalist at the anti-capitalist paper Workers' Solidarity. He's a member of Antarsya, which stands for, in English, mutiny. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Good, thanks. Can you explain the twists and turns of Syriza?
Well, it's not easy to be explained. I mean, even Syriza members are still under shock because the thing is that Syriza supposedly caused a referendum where Syriza's leader and Prime Minister of Greece supported no. And after the huge victory, the landslide victory, as you said, of the no in the referendum, everyone seemed to think and feel in Greece that there was a huge victory against the European bankers. Instead, there was a U-turn of the government, and they signed an even worse treaty than the one that had been rejected in the referendum. It has been, we were astonished to learn just yesterday from the ex-Minister of Finance, Yanis Varoufakis. He said that when he went to find the Prime Minister, Alexis Tsipras, after the outcome of the referendum, Alexis Tsipras was feeling sad about the outcome. It was as if he wanted the yes to win. So I think more light of what exactly have happened among the leadership of Syriza, we're actually going to find out many years later. I can explain what is happening right now in Syriza, and the thing is that every local committee of Syriza rank and file people that have been meeting around Greece the past 2 days have been voting against the agreement. Every single one of them that has met. Also, the Central Committee of Syriza, with a marginal majority, rejected the agreement. And as far as I can estimate, more than 35 MPs of Syriza have already stated that they are going to vote against the agreement. On the same time, Syriza seems to be, Alexis Tsipras seems to be relying on the right-wing MPs in the parliament and the ex-Social Democrat, the Social Democrats of PASOK to vote for the agreement. So in a way, we can say that there is a small coup. There has been a huge no by the Greek people that voted 62% against the agreement, and now we have a parliament who is going to vote with huge numbers for the agreement. So in a way, it's a coup, and it's made in the European Union, I mean in the Brussels bureaucracy, and it's implemented by the Greek government.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you have heard, but already a minister has resigned.
Yes, who is that?
It's Nandia Balavani. She's actually a vice minister of finance. She used to be responsible for the income of the Greek state or for collecting the taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And also she would be responsible for the privatization package. And she refuses to implement this thing.
Let's talk about the deal. How bad is it? I mean, I heard that the country's airports and ports have to be sold. Can you give us some concrete details?
Well, it's disastrous. I mean, I think it's even worse than the sum of the two previous agreements, the two previous bailout agreements that brought us in this situation that we are right now. I can't be really detailed on every aspect of it because we didn't have the time to study it enough, as even the MPs don't have enough time to study that. But if we want to be brief, there is even more taxes to the people, huge privatizations of more than a dozen of airports, the biggest ports of the country, also will be privatized. And also there are some other laws that haven't taken a lot of publicity. There is a law for a new trade union law, which is designed by the European Union, will make it much more difficult for unions to go on strike. And also, there is a paragraph that says that how would you say, the economic policy of the state has to be depoliticized. Like it will be a matter of technocrats appointed by the European Union, and not a matter of politics, that Greek people can vote and change the economic policy of the Greek state.
Hmm.
It's a huge coup in every aspect of it.
And I understand certain taxes have gone up. For instance, if you have a restaurant meal, the tax will go up from 11 to what, 23, 25%.
Yes, the VAT tax, which is a tax over on consumption, is going to rise in many categories. Which it's it's the number one tax that hurts poor people, because it's not a tax on the income or in luxurious goods like huge villas or swimming pools or expensive cars. It's higher tax on things that even the poorest people consume, as spaghetti or like cheese or stuff like that. Like supermarket goods are going to be even more expensive.
Now, as I understand it, Prime Minister Tsipras' argument is that Greeks never voted to leave the euro, so he had to make the best deal possible, and so he did.
Okay, you want to comment on that?
Yeah.
Because okay, the truth is that the political opponents of Tsipras, like at least the ones that used to be the political opponents of Tsipras, the Social Democrats and the right-wing party, had been arguing that a vote for no in the referendum would be a rupture with the European Union and the Eurozone, and eventually would mean that Greece would be out of the Eurozone. Instead, people voted no, besides the propaganda. And the most clear thing, even if this is a little bit blurry, because Tsipras was arguing that no doesn't mean rupture with the European Union, and this thing is a little bit blurry. The only thing that we can be 100% sure is that people voted against austerity. That's what they rejected in the referendum. And austerity is exactly what Tsipras is bringing to this country with this new agreement.
Now, your party, your group, Antarsya, was not part of Syriza. And in fact, I understand in the acronym it includes the word rupture. So what do you mean by rupture?
We mean a total rupture, and we stand for anti-capitalist rupture. We have a pretty concrete agenda of how we can come out of this crisis, how we can break with austerity. Number one thing is we should cancel the debt and stop paying the bonds to the European Central Bank and to the IMF. We have paid already enough for this debt, billions and billions. We have paid 2 and 3 times the total value of the debt, and we can't afford to pay any more to the bankers. The second thing that we need to do is to break with the Eurozone. So we can have a policy. No, the ECB is the number one institution that implements austerity. So we need a central bank that issues a currency that is not controlled by the bureaucracy of the Eurozone. So this means a new currency. And the third crucial step would be the nationalization of the banking sector. But even all these wouldn't be enough if we don't have another kind of power over the banking system and over the economy. And we have been arguing the last 5 years that what we need is workers' control over the banking system. So we, the simple people, the people that produce all the goods and all the values, can control where the money actually go and what the priorities in the economy are.
Now, this complete rupture, reminds me, I saw this interview with Varoufakis, and they asked him, well, did you have people working on a plan B? Did you have people, having this in reserve in case the Merkel was, totally unreasonable. And he said, well, we had 4 or 5 people talking about this. I was kind of stunned. I mean, you would have hundreds of people trying to make a whole alternative, and they had nothing. Um, well, let me talk about resistance. I mean, we did talk about opposition within Syriza, but I understand there's a strike going on about the austerity right now. Could you talk about it?
Okay, so what we have is that on Monday there was a meeting, quite wide meeting of trade unionists around the public sector, and decided to have a strike on today, on Wednesday, which is the day of the first um, voting in the parliament. There was a demonstration in the morning, and we are expecting a really massive demonstration in the afternoon, 7:30, outside the parliament. There is a slight possibility, not a slight, there is a possibility that there are going to be many strikes, much more strikes in the future, because um, like for example, the trade union in the port of Piraeus, which is the biggest port of the country, has already was already in strike a few weeks ago when the privatization of the port was announced, and we expect that they are going to strike again, maybe in an all-out strike. We don't know yet.
So right now, who is on strike? Public workers and who else?
Yeah, it's the public sector and some federations of the private sector. For example, it's the power company, they is the name, and the train company, and some smaller ones. But
Hmm.
that's the two major.
Let's talk now about one force we haven't mentioned, the KKE, the Communist Party of Greece. Now, they had been saying all along that Syriza wasn't to be trusted and that their ideas were possible and that Greece needed a full-blown socialism. They even recommended last week that people not vote no on that austerity referendum, but to spoil their ballots. Were they right?
Well, in theory, they were right that without rupture with the European Union, you can't break austerity. But the problem with the KKE is the way it practices its politics. I mean, they weren't part of the big battle that the Greek people gave last Sunday, the previous Sunday, with the referendum. Actually, most of KKE voters voted no and didn't follow the urge of the Communist Party to spoil the votes. So even now, although that their trade unionists voted for the strike in in the in the meetings of the trade unions, they are not pushing to escalate with strikes. They weren't part of the morning demonstration of the trade unions. They're only calling for an evening demonstration. So in a way, I think they don't help people to mobilize against this agreement. They just stand in the corner outside the big struggle, and they just say we were right. We were saying all this from the beginning. So I don't think this kind of work.
So they don't really cooperate. You either follow them or you're some kind of enemy.
No, well, I work. We do work with a lot of people that vote in the Communist Party, and in some cases members of the Communist Party. But the leadership of the party is not. There is not a case that they feel that they can work along with other parties or groups. They're quite isolated in the way they organize things.
All right, my
They
last. I'm sorry.
even tonight they're calling in a different square.
They're going to have their demonstration in a different square than
Yes,
everyone
yes,
else.
yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
That's what they do usually.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that. Well, how about people in other countries? We're here in the United States. So what I've seen things before, big demonstrations in France and in other countries. What can people do to help the workers of Greece?
Okay, the past 2 weeks, the international solidarity to the No campaign was Perfect. It was great. It was a huge inspiration for the people in Greece. Although the mainstream media never reported anything about that, through the social media and through some media like through papers like the one I work for, we have great reports about international solidarity, and we want this solidarity to keep on going. I mean, demonstrations, either small or big or larger, against austerity, against the coup that the European Union is pushing forward in Greece are huge. But on the long, that's on the short term. But on the long term, what people abroad can do to help us is to fight for their own rights. Because when there is internationally movement for better wages, for higher minimum wage and better workers' rights, this helps to break the neoliberal argument, about competition between uh, workers.
Well, thank you very much for this interview.
Thank you.
I've been speaking with Manolis Spathis in Athens. Thank you all for listening. This is Stanley Heller for The Struggle.